Yeah.
You are listening to The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Andrea Spearman, and this is The Black Landscape, where we engage with emerging and established Black leaders here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a review of the show on Apple Podcasts or in the comments of our social media. I am a light-skinned Black woman with my dark brown curly hair in a half up, half down style today. I'm wearing my black and brown glasses and a burgundy sweatshirt that reads, Ratchet Black Girls Matter, Nerdy Black Girls Matter, Slim Black Girls Matter, Plus Size Black Girls Matter, and so on and so forth, describing the plethora of Black girls who matter. Okay? And our special guest, Chi-chi-okonmah, is definitely a Black girl, a woman who matters. Hey, Chi-chi.
Hello, Miss Andrea. Thank you for having me.
Yes, welcome. Describe yourself to the people.
Yes, I am a Black woman, chocolate complexion. I like to say that little dog chocolate. Yes, with my African Black locks. And they are currently, I have them braided up top and kind of wrapped around a little basket. And then with the locks hanging down the back of the neck. And I'm a little double covered. You know, I like to have my personal climates, as I like to say. So I'm always layered in the bag because you just never know. So right now I'm in a black sweater and underneath I've got on a little striped shirt, again, long sleeve, but with some opportunity to be cool as well. So yeah.
I love that you said personal climates.
Oh, yes.
I've not heard that description before, but I love it. And those who know will know.
That's right. If you know, you know.
I love that. Chi-chi, you wear so many hats with all the great work that you do here in the Bay Area. But what originally brought you here to the Bay? Because where did you grow up? Not here.
Right. Yes, I am born and raised on the south side of Chicago. South side. Yes. Yes, Michelle Obama and I could have been friends. Yes. So yeah, I'm actually from Chicago, and then I did my undergrad and graduate in Boston at Boston University. And what brought me to California was the weather, for real, for real. I was tired of being cold. I've been in Boston for about 10 years, post-grad degree, and I said, I am tired of being cold 9-10 months out of the year. Also, I have family out here. I had clients out here. I was working in tech. Was it KQED was actually my client. So I had been flying out here every month for about 6 months working with them. And when I would stay around and hang out with my cousin in Vallejo, who's a singer-songwriter, and he was launching his career. And so he was out gigging. And so I was, working during the day, basically, and then getting a little bit of nightlife. And more and more, my inner artist, the more I hung out with my cousin, and he finally said to me, he said, you want to be here. You're an artist. You need to be here. And actually, I won't say tragic, but it's a sad story. What really literally got me to come here was I had been out here for a client meeting. Actually, it was a business retreat. Our company had their annual retreat or something. And we'd been here for a week or two, and then I stuck around for another week to stay with my cousin and his family, and they just had a baby girl. So she was about 6 weeks old, just the most amazing little being, and I fell in love with her instantly. And I slept when I was staying with them, we were in the same room. So when she would wake up and cry, I would, take care of her and everything. Beautiful. I left them, I want to say on a Monday or Friday, but a few days later, I got a call that baby died of SIDS, that she passed away. of sudden infant death syndrome. And
Oh,
it broke my heart. I remember I was actually driving when I got the news. I had to pull over. It was just, but what it did was it really made me realize that I was not living my dream, that I was working in tech because I was good at it,
mm,
but it wasn't what I wanted to do. My heart was in the arts. I wanted to figure out what this calling was. And so, literally within 6 months of her passing, I called her dad, my cousin, and I said, "Hey, if I come out there, can I stay with you all until I figure out what it is I want to do? But I think I'm ready to just do it." And so, yeah, I quit my job. I packed everything in my car. I flew my cousin out, and we drove. Actually, I shipped everything, and then I flew him out, and we drove cross country.
wow.
Um, and I landed in Vallejo, California on August 1st of 2000.
Wow.
And I began to pursue the arts, and I started taking acting classes. And the real, I think what really kind of solidified me to the Bay was I was taking classes at ACT. They
Mm,
did the adult continuing education classes, and I found tap dance.
there we go.
And my world began.
It
Yeah.
just burst open from there.
It first opened because from there I found Rhythm and Motion Dance Center. I eventually became the operations manager for Rhythm and Motion. And that was literally open, 365 days a year dance.
Mm-hmm.
Over 100, what was it? Over 100 people a day. I think we would see, or several hundred people a day in that studio would go through those classes. And so that really began my immersion in the Bay Area arts. And from there, because I was in the studio, but in operation. So I was bringing my tech and all of my organization in and as an administrator, and then slowly becoming a dancer and an artist as well. So I was really able to find the marriage of those two. And then it was Bay Area National Dance Week. I think I saw that position for the program coordinator for that. And I thought,
Mm.
yeah. I'm on the
Like,
dance
yeah, I can do
studio.
that.
Dance, why not? And so I got that position. The first year we did the first year is amazing. Of course, I got even deeper immersed in dance. And then the second year, Jyoti Singh was my partner in that. So that's how I met Jyoti, whose husband is Bongo, and they've got the huge. So yeah, it's just
Yes, Dunia drum and dance.
we need a drum and dance, yes. And rhythm and motion is where I met Roger at the beat. So from the beat. So all of the connections really came from, I say, from that tap dance class, from that realization of I needed to dance. And that brought me to dance. And then from Bay Area National Dance Week, Laura Elaine and Kimbrough, I don't even remember how I met, what it was I met them through, but they reached out and said, "Will you PM and would you project and stage manage the Black Choreographers Festival?" I was like, "Sure." I don't really know what that is. I wasn't formally trained in it. They're like, "But you're running." I was like, "But yeah, I can run some shit. Like, if you just tell me what you need." Like, we're on this.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, "Yeah, I can handle whatever it is you need." And then they're like, "Yeah." So, and then I realized, I said, "Well, wait a minute, though." I said, "You mean the Black Choreographers Festival that's happening this year?" And I remember it was the end of January.
Oh. Oh. Oh my.
Yes, I said, so in like 2 weeks.
Right. Oh, Laura,
That was my
Laura, Kendra.
You know, they
I'm gonna
can.
get them on here too, so we can talk about this.
We come on, because you know they can throw a baby into a pool and say, "You got this, baby, swim." That is exactly, and that was how I got my stage managing chops, stage and production managing from when, and that was when the Black Choreographers Festival was 3 weeks long. It started at the Malanga, and then it went to, was it Dance Mission, and then Laney College.
Mm.
And it was a full week tech at each one with full weekend performances, like 20, 30 some odd performance groups.
I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. And did that for years. So that's kind of the trajectory of whew. And in all of that, I was becoming a tap dancer. I was falling more and more in love with tap dance.
Yeah. So that's my question. Like, why tap out of all the dance styles? Like, why did it speak to you the most? Is it something about rhythm?
So when I was a kid, of course, I used to always put on my little patent leather Sunday shoes and
Yeah.
go into the kitchen on the linoleum because I saw Shirley Temple.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go in the kitchen and, make the sound because I thought it was the coolest thing. And then in college, I actually took a tap class one semester. And the teacher said, "Wow, you're actually a natural." And I really enjoyed it. I was surprised. But then she never came back and it was never offered again.
Oh.
So it happened. And when I came out here, I don't know what it was, but eventually I discovered Gregory Hines as a tap dancer, right? Many think of they know him as an actor, but yeah, as a tap dancer, and it was I think it was the rhythm because I love house music. I love to dance. But I was not, formally trained. So just the naturalness of it, it feels so natural to me in my body. But yeah, it came natural. And once I put the shoes on and took the first class with the right teacher who taught rhythm tap as opposed to jazz tap. I like to distinguish. There's the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Hollywood, the people know Broadway jazz tap. And then there's hoofing. Then there's the old man in the little studio, wood floor, and they're just riffing back and forth. It's just the metal in the wood, and it's those rhythms and something about it. There's something to my soul.
And you're so good at it.
Thank you.
Like I tell the people that's how I met Chi-Chi over at the Beat in Berkeley, if memory serves correctly. But it may not. But if memory serves correctly, I think that's where I first met you. That's at least where I first met the tap teacher. That is Chi-Chi. Because I was like, who's this Black woman over here with the tap? I said, yes. They got rhythm in there. I said, okay. I said, yes, please teach the people rhythm and not just stomping all over the place. You got to have some rhythm to it.
That's what I like to tell it. Yeah, I told my students, I said, if you're tapping without rhythm, you're just making noise. Tap without rhythm is just noise. And it's about communication. I think that might be the other piece. Like, I can almost hear the words, right? Tap dance, it's a language because it was never about performance, right? I talk a lot about, when people talk about tap, I like to tell them about the history of tap. Tap dance is, I believe, separate from tap. Tapping came about, it is truly African American in that our enslaved ancestors, when the drums were taken from them, right? The drums were they realized they were using the drums to communicate across villages, and they were communicating escape plans. So when they took the drums away, as I like to say, that ain't gonna stop our folks. They're like, okay.
Can't stop us.
You can't stop us. So what we gonna do now? Well, we got feet. Guess what? They can make sound too. And so our ancestors figured out how to use the sound of the foot and the ground and the gravel and the sand. I mean, they didn't have shoes with metal on them. No, they had,
right,
whatever they had, but they figured out how to make sound, but that sound was language, right? A certain sound or a certain, what do they call Morse code? That's what Morse code is, right?
Yeah.
The rhythms and the tempo and the pitch, all of that, right, was your name, right? You heard a certain set of sounds in a certain pattern and order, etc. That was your name. They were calling you. That was the name of, or that was the time, etc. To be aware. So the history of tap is also so cultural and so African and truly African American. And when I think about when people ask, well, how did it become dance? I mean, so much of our history we don't know for fact, but I liken it to capoeira, right? That concept of it became a dance because they made it seem like, oh, we're just playing, right? Well, with tap, it became, maybe we created it as a dance to honor it, to keep it alive, right? For us, it was a way for us to honor that this saved our lives. This is a form of tradition, or maybe we kept it alive because we were still communicating that way, but we had to be surreptitious, right? We had to keep it cloaked. So we said, oh no, we're just dancing.
We had to gatekeep it a little bit.
There we go. So now we shucking and jiving.
Right. It didn't.
And now we tap dancing for you, right? Sometimes that whole idea of tap dancing might be because that's what we wanted you to think.
There you go. Like, don't let too many secrets out, but yes, the evolution of necessity.
That's it. Yeah. So 20 years later. And yes, I celebrated actually my 20-year tap anniversary, along with the 20 years from moving to the Bay. And I did what I call Tap Across America. And it was a tribute to my ancestors. So if you go to my website, I actually documented it. I went to 4 to 6 sites where our ancestors used to be in this country, places that no longer exist, either because we were driven out or because of weather, economic forces moved us out. And I went, I laid my board, and I honored the ancestors that were there. In some places there were monuments or, other things that recognized, but I kind of created that passage. I did my own little middle passage journey in a sense, and gave them an honor through tap, right? Communicated back to them, because I really feel that they gave me that voice. They gave me a way to communicate and express myself in dance that wasn't ballet or modern or jazz, which, this Black body was not the right form or example of. So as much as I loved dance as a girl, I was always the chunky girl. I was always fat or overweight, right? So I wasn't the ballerina, right? I didn't do jazz or modern. Or so for me, but I love dance so much. And tap dance, when I found it, it felt so natural. It didn't seem to have this necessary body image, because it was my feet, right? And then I discovered the language of it, and I could speak, but I didn't have to say anything. So it became, that voice for me.
I love that. The way that we as Black women, we will find our place. We will make a place, make a space for us to be and grow and honor our ancestors and say, hey, I'm about to do this thing. I don't care what they talking about, body type or age or what have you. This is meant for me.
That's it.
I love that you went on that journey. We have to check that out. And we will be back to talk with Chi-Chi more about this. We're going to take a short break to catch up on previous episodes of The Black Landscape. Download on Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Be sure to leave a 5-star review if you love us. And when we come back, we'll hear more from Chi-Chi. October is National Women's Business Month, and I'm here to tell you about a business that's close to my heart. 9301 Home is a candle company based in Texas that embodies all the warmth and love that people feel at home. The current holiday collection features fragrances of pumpkin, amber, oak, spiced cranberries, cinnamon, Macintosh apples, and more that bring to mind shared childhood memories, happiness, and love. Purchase your holiday gift candles and wax melt sets today by visiting 9301home.com and receive a $9 flat rate shipping fee and free shipping on all orders over $125. So we are back with multi-talented maven Chi-chi-okonmah. So now that we've heard all about the art practices and movement, love and history and groundedness, where does real estate fit into that? Like, how did we, because you was in tech and then you came to Bay Area and got all in the arts and got real creative and things. Now we're over to housing.
Like, now how did you end up in the real estate, particularly in the Bay? Well, believe it or not, it is somehow related to art. So here I was actually liaisoning between ODC Dance Theater and the Arto Theater, which is now the Space, right? Before they were there, that was the Arto, and that theater was managed by the residents of the Arto building. ODC was in the process of building their space, which at the time would have been brand new. So they were in between spaces. So they took over the Arto Theater for the 1.5 to 2 years that their space was being built. And I was serving as the liaison between the two organizations, between ODC and Arto. So I was supporting ODC while they were doing their year of performances, presenting in Arto. And then I was booking the Arto the other time. So I served as the booking manager. So this is my arts administration work that, I was with World Arts West, Lorraine Hansberry. So in all those spaces, I came in to do a lot of their administration, rhythm and motion, et cetera. So I'm that liaison, and eventually ODC moves into their space, and Arto decides we don't want to run the theater anymore. So they put out RFP to the community. So I, along with a man who I've been working with through ODC, we partnered and we actually put in a proposal to take over that space, and we were going to create a membership consortium with space, but they chose the space. No harm, no foul. Great decision. We love Z Space and what they're doing over there.
Yeah, great.
Exactly, amazing work. So I'm like, good decision. But I was so. I was done, because my work had completed. I was no longer now working with ODC Arto. I was an independent contractor, but basically I now had no employment and I hadn't decided what I wanted to do next. And I was just kind of tired. And I said, well, I need a break. I was like, so where can I go that's not here, but not too far from here? And that doesn't cost a lot because I don't have a lot. And that would just give me an opportunity to figure out what to do next with my life. Long story short, I ended up in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, for 6 months. And it was incredible and amazing and just beautiful. But while I was out there, I was inspired to start this real estate business. I got this idea around real estate because of the tourist activity that was happening out there.
Mm.
So when I came back here, I started diving into trying to launch this real estate idea. And in the process, I realized I should just go ahead and get my license. And then in the process, technology changed, the world started changing. So my idea kind of became obsolete. But then I have my real estate license. So I said, well, let's start practicing real estate, but not for the purpose of being a mogul. Um, it's always been for me a personal truth, and I have no scientific facts, but I just believe that we have the ability for every human to be housed and
Yes.
and fed. Like, I just truly believe that to be a fact.
Agree.
And I don't know that there's any science that can prove otherwise. So I'm sticking with that. So I've always believed that that was true. And I've always believed that housing, safe, affordable, accessible housing and shelter and food should not be a luxury, but it is a human right. And if we're to be here and have access to it, everyone should have access to it. So for me, especially as a Black woman, coming into real estate was about educating my community and also being a steward in my community around real estate. Because especially in California, it's one of the most corrupt industries in America. And it's because 90% of the millionaires and billionaires in America gain their wealth through real estate. And most of African Americans lost our inheritance, which was our real estate, right? They stole it. That's why we not yet seen our 42 acres or the mule. Because
listen, where's the check?
that part, because they know, right? They know that the land is the thing. And so for me, getting into real estate is still about reparations. It's about educating our folks to not buy into this idea of I don't need to own. Yeah, you do, right? We know that as Indigenous people, we don't own the land. However, the structures have been in place to prevent us from doing what is ours to do, which is to steward this land. So if what we need to do to steward the land is to go through your ownership nonsense, that's fine. We need to do that because it is our responsibility and our right to steward our lands, to rematriate these lands. And so getting into real estate is really about decolonizing that particular system and really coming back to that space of cooperative and stewardship in housing and in space. So, some of the work that I've done is what we call a space steward. And I really loved that because that is something that I do find myself that naturally happens for me is stewarding space, creating safe spaces, you know, ensuring that spaces are made accessible or, set up in such a way that they welcome the folks that they're here to welcome. Um, yeah, so the real estate, like it kind of fell into it, but it made sense once I was in it. I always like to say I'm not a real estate broker that you'll ever see a face on a bench, on a bus stop bench, or on a billboard. I am the community realtor where my people know I'm in real estate, and I always say, people, whether you're coming to me to buy, you don't have to be buying or selling. If you just have a question, right? I want to be that resource for my community to ensure that we are at that in that real estate conversation at all times. And particularly in the Bay and in California, where, the stories are still real, where I have been quoted a price for a property that was different than another agent that did not look like you or I was quoted. Right. So this is real, even in 2024. So representation matters, particularly in real estate.
Yes. And, I was just going to get to that. Like in real estate, in the production and technical side of the arts, as a Black woman in the arts, I can say that there are not a lot of us. And seeing you there and being excellent in this representation is sorely needed, especially here in the Bay Area. And like you said it a little bit, but like, do you think of yourself as like a leader in this way?
I do. I do. And I honor that. I love it. It is a responsibility, right? And I love that you brought it up in tech as well. Yes. And that's how I ended up backstage, right? I love the art. I love it so much. Like, I'm that kid in the theater. I believe in that fifth wall. Don't break that wall for me. I believe in the magic of that stage. Um, but when I finally got backstage and discovered it was I was like, oh, this is all an illusion. But this is a good one. Like, you can keep right, but if you can keep the pieces moving, this is a good illusion. We got everybody fooled, and the stage manager, you literally are in between the curtain. On this side is the magic, on this side is the chaos. On this side and it's like, wow, for me, love it. And then I got back there and realized, this is not how we behave. you know, oh, like it's not that serious, people. Like, we need to keep humanity inside of this production, and we need to still have. So just realizing that it puts in our culture was not only reflected, but it wasn't being held at all. It wasn't even known. I'll say one of the most heartbreaking events was it was just such a beautiful and powerful piece. Amara Tabor Smith, who anyone in the Bay in arts knows who that is, and
if you don't, Google.
Come on, right? And they have done just the most powerful works, and they're so deeply spiritual. And this particular piece, the set design, Dana Kawano, another Bay Area magician in Bay Area arts, just transformed this particular theater that I won't mention specifically. And it's not their fault. I mean, it's the way it is, right? You do these shows. You do your show from, your preview Wednesday or Thursday. You open Friday night. You do your Saturday, Sunday. And then you got a strike, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, literally, the performers weren't out of their costumes before the set was being, they call it struck, but it was just being ripped to shreds. And it was such a talent. And
there was no grace or just sacredness of taking down the pieces, of just being tender. Like, somebody made this. Wait a minute.
Such a spiritual piece. And so, and for Africans and African descent or cultural and indigenous pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sets can be altars, right? The pieces can become sacred from the blessings and the performances that happen, right? So there's so much energy, right? We are energetic people. And you could feel the heartbreak in every performer in the set as they just saw it with no warning, like, and again, it wasn't as if they intend. We know that that's what happens at the end of a show, but to see it in for it to have happened, it really, that's when it became personal to me in a way that was deeper. And so I kind of I see myself on this mission. And my mission is to see an African diasporic and African owned and managed. And when I say owned and managed, I mean name on the deed by Black folks in the Bay, the African diaspora in the Bay. They need their own space. And they should have it. The opera houses have their spaces. The circuses have their spaces, right? All of these modern, they have their spaces. And yet Dimension celebrated 50 years last year. Black choreography Festival will celebrate 20 years next year. Robert Moses can, Robert Henry Johnson, Rise in Power. But I mean, we connect legacy. We're not talking five, we're talking to Martha Bohr Smith. These folks have been in the Bay 25, 35, 45, 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet there is not a single building that belongs to these companies that have brought the eyes of people who are looking for art to the Bay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay. And, you know, and to have it come and to have it not one be here, and the many times it's almost been here, it's had to come under, you know, someone else's hand or supervision, right? No, no. So yeah, I'm on that. That's really where I feel my leadership is to keep coming into these spaces and to keep reminding folks the reason people know about these spaces is because of our arts communities, is because of the legacies that are here. And they deserve better. And we deserve to be the stewards and authorities of our own space, and to take it to the next level, right? Because we're leading it anyway. So yeah, it's all about representation and getting us to the point where we have our own space, so then we can begin to create, set the precedent ourselves, right? No longer ask.
Yeah. Because we're not asking.
That part. That part.
We're taking back what belongs to us.
So that's a lot of why I wear so many hats, because I keep finding they're all connected, right? Like we can't separate. I can't separate my housing from my food, from my transportation, from my entertainment, from my education, right? So for me, it feels like many hats, but in truth, it's the same outfit. Right? It's the same outfit. And I just have to keep reminding folks, right? That
the same armor on a different day. So this is Liberation Work by Chi-Chi that's happening here. If you like to get involved, tell Chi-Chi where can they find you to get involved, to support Black empowerment, upliftment, community work, housing, building buildings, community and connections. Tell them how to get in touch with you.
Yes.
So all lift hands and come together with these resources.
So I'm at c2orhythmandarts.com. That's my website. You can see the work that I do as an artist, as an arts administrator, or I like to say a creative entrepreneur or strategic entrepreneur. So a lot of the work that I do is in consulting, is in, doing one-on-ones with folks or group work, designing new models. Right. So I work to recreate these models, get people out of this idea of a nonprofit and into the idea of profit, unapologetic profit, and actual business models that reflect the business world, which the arts organizations have not been presented with. So, reach out, find me there, c2orhythmandarts.com. And my latest venture, moving towards our own liberation, I am a game designer.
Oh,
so, I've created several, my team, my group, MesoRockCreations.com, my spiritual family out on the East Coast. Our goal is to infuse our culture into gameplay, into the games and cards and board games that we grew up with. So currently we are in pre-order mode for, we created a game called Us. And ultimately it's Black Uno. And it's pretty awesome. We've gotten some really great feedback, but it has culture instead of numbers, right? It uses culturally significant and relevant images, and then also really brings in culturally rooted concepts from, that are ancestral, that are based in values and principles that we want to pass on. And we're actually in process of creating a suite of games that do that. People don't realize it, but we grew up playing games called, think about it, Risk, Trouble, Monopoly, War, Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Right? But you notice the theme, right? It's
these some negative words and feelings.
gameplay. And this is our game, but this is how we learn to interact.
I mean, I like Mancala. That was ancestry.
That was ancestral, right? But a lot of folks didn't grow up with that, right? So a lot of those games from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? They're rooted in capitalism. They're rooted in these systems that are not about uplifting, connecting, and expanding. And so our goal is to come at our gameplay, right? We say we're playing the game and changing it, right? We're playing around and changing the whole game and infusing those values in the gameplay so that we can begin to really come at this from internally, right? From the source, as well as the work that we do day to day.
Absolutely. And so that's all that is on the website, but also where can people enroll in the tap classes so they can come dance with you?
Oh my goodness. Yes. I'm over at the Beat in Berkeley. Shout out. That is such an amazing spot. So check out the Beats. I teach on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 6:30 to 7:45. Tuesdays is a more advanced class. Wednesdays for my beginners. And kind of basic intermediates. But again, 6:30 to 7:45. Bring your tap shoes. And if you don't have them and want to check it out, you can come in and try it out without shoes and get you some rhythm on.
Yeah, and those links will be in our show notes. Tap in and support Black creativity. Thank you for joining us, Chi-Chi.
Thank you so much for having me.
So glad to have you here to talk about the work that you do, creative and liberation work.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you highlighting this energy in the Bay. This is definitely, it's an honor to be a part of it, and grateful to know that someone is documenting the brilliant history of Black brilliance and excellence here in the Bay Area.
Absolutely. And thank all of you out there for listening and supporting another season. Again, leave a review of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or in the comments of our social media. This has been another episode of The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending.